in this series. This happens to be step 2. In step 1, we took a spreadsheet like this and we prepped it for use within Power BI and made the spreadsheet look like this and converted it to a table. So see step 1 if you haven't seen that yet. Today, we're going to go ahead and move this data here, this table into Power BI and get started. So stay tuned. We're going to jump right to it. So the first thing you need to do is find where that file is. And for me, it happens to be inside of Personal. And you're going to copy the URL, but you're only going to copy it from the point where I have forward. You're not going to copy everything else. So just go ahead and highlight that and just hit copy. And then we're going to go over and open up Power BI. And when you're inside of Power BI, let me start it over again. Right down here in the lower left, you have Get Data. Click on that, and then we're going to say Files, and we're going to say SharePoint because I happen to have this data stored in SharePoint. Could also be OneDrive. Both of these will synchronize the data. Click there, and it's going to ask you for that URL. You can dig around by hitting Connect, but I always just copy that URL, and I paste it into here, and I hit Connect. Now it's going to load my data for me, and you can see everything's loaded up. Now this looks a little foreign, so you're just going to click on Shared Documents right there, and here's all the data, and we know it's inside of General, so it's inside of General and it's down there. So let's go ahead and just drill into that General, and then it's right down there at the bottom, right here. Power BI data sample. Now that's this one that we've converted to a table. Remember, you have to have the data converted to a table. Let's go ahead and select the data sample. And we're going to hit Connect. Now, once we hit Connect, we have two options here. The option I always choose is this one right here. This one right here. So that it will automatically be refreshed. And I want that data set to be refreshed automatically. I do not want it to be standing by itself. So we're just going to go ahead and hit import. It's going to take a minute to process the data. And you can see that's appeared on the screen there, some of the other data that I've done. Now, we can just click on here and say go to dashboard, or we can click on the data itself. Let's just click on the data. So we're going to go right there to the Data tab, and you see it, it's the first one right there, Power BI Data Sample. See that? Let's go ahead and click on that. Now here we can look at the data itself, and we can do all types of other things and we're going to create a report is what we're going to do. We can also click on this refresh, and so since we have the data in here, let's go ahead and schedule its refresh. So click on there, schedule refresh. And notice here it went to data sets. Now you could have also gone to the data tab and hit settings and it would have brought you here as well. Notice here data sets. Notice here that we have OneDrive refresh. By default, it's going to do it once per hour. Now notice that it does not say SharePoint, but this is the data set and it is going to update once per hour. And the critical thing to remember here, and so we're good here, right? So we can just go back to our data source here. Here it is right here. We can click on here. We could have gotten there, by the way, through settings. But now we're going to hit create a report. Remember, we also clicked on here and hit create a report. There's multiple ways to do this. But let's just say create a report. Now, remember, and it's very, very important to remember that your data set is not dynamic. So meaning that if you change some data inside of here, it's not automatically going to appear on your Power BI report. You saw that the refresh rate is 1 hour, right? So you're going to have to make that accommodation to make sure that you know that that data is not going to automatically appear. So just keep that in the back of your head. And that is as simple as it is to load the data using a SharePoint site. So review, we got the data from SharePoint. We went to Power BI, we loaded the data, and here is our data set. Do you notice all of this data here? And notice here that these are the fields here. So we have all the data here. Now we can begin to build our graphics any way that we want to and manipulate that data. So we'll see you in step 3 of this video series. Step 3 is really where we begin to put the graphics together. Now, we're going to just show a basic, very simple graphic here on the screen, but we can do all types of graphics and variables. So see, step 4, we're actually going to go into variables and creating on-the-fly data that does not appear easily within these columns. But let's just take a look at this one here. Here, I always like to add a table, and that literally you just click on table and you can see all the fields I added. They all are represented here. And if you looked back at the spreadsheet itself, it looks almost exactly like the spreadsheet. So you can see that data. This data can't be changed, but you can see it. You can see the totals. You can take the totals off. There's lots of things, flexibility that you can do. So then built upon that, let's go ahead and put in a graphic. And we put in this graphic, which happens to be a pie chart. And we've said, hey, so the legend, right, is the candidate themselves. So you can see the candidate here. And then we can put in gross profit. But we could, for example, if we wanted to, say, let's say instead we wanted to do it based on the account. So we could drag in account here and see what the gross profit was on each of the accounts, or what our bill rate is, for example. So by account. So we could see that data. Now here, it's showing us that the totals, it's giving us totals, DOE, and we can go ahead and change these, and some of them work out. This one's good. And you just kind of have to play with them, and you can tweak the way they appear here as well within this area here and other areas. You can set different filters and things of that nature. We're not going to go through that because this part 3 really is just getting the basics out of the data. There's one other thing. If you want to have multiple pages on your report, you just click on the new page here and then you start over. Take the visualization, whichever visualization you want. Let's just say we want a number here. So we're going to click on the number. Whoops. And there it is right there. And let's say that we want to know the total number of candidates. So we're going to drop in candidates. Now notice here that it says Joe Snuffy because that's our first one. But let's go ahead and click on here. And then you're going to see count. And it's going to say there's 3 candidates. Now when you look at it, you can see here that there are indeed 3 candidates. Okay? So that looked good. But let's say that we want to count, instead of counting candidates, let's say that we want to count the number of accounts. So here, again, we're going to go down here. We're going to say count 3. Now, when you look over here, how many are there? There's 3. But we really just want to know the unique accounts. How many unique accounts are there? We're going to put distinct. So here, when we put in distinct, now we can see that there's only 2 because there's 1, 2. So that's kind of how that works. And you can change the colors. You can do all types of things. You can turn, that doesn't look very good in a pie chart, but maybe you could do it. It still doesn't look very good. So you can just kind of play with all of these and see which one works best for you. And then these pages just appear and you can move the pages around down here. So it becomes very flexible, very easy to use. Now the cool thing is that all of this data is updated. Remember last time we went into updating, notice here that the last update was done at this time represented on the screen. So you can always see that, and then of course you can drill into your data, and we're not going to save those changes, but you can go into your data set itself right there and go into settings and see kind of the health of it, the refresh, make sure it's on, things of that nature.